Welcome to Bahrain, welcome to the first FIA GT Nations Cup, and welcome to qualifying, which is about to get underway for the cars that make their way very shortly down the pit lane. And a busy weekend here in Bahrain for GT3, for GT4 technology, and this circuit, which is getting ready for the first qualifying session for the FIA GT Nations Cup. No stranger to GT racing. SRO has been here before, back in 2004 with the GT Festival. The FIA GT Championship came here a year later, but it's been a long, long time since a standalone grid of GT cars, certainly of this quality, came to Bahrain. And the Nations Cup, an all-new event, has got bronze and silver crews, GT3 machinery, and it's an intriguing entry because by definition with those lower graded drivers you don't have the stars. You've got drivers having to come from the same nation as each other as well, making for some very interesting driver combinations. Some driving cars they've never raced before, with people they've never raced with before, for a team they've never driven for before. We've had 2 free practice sessions, and now the serious business of qualifying begins. 20 minutes for Q1, first driver, break of 10 minutes, and then another 20-minute period for the second driver, ready for the second race. There's a qualifying race to come at the end of today, second one tomorrow. The points you get for where you finish, 1 for a win, 18th for last, add them together, that sorts out the grid for the main race tomorrow evening. David Addison and John Watson trackside, and cars now, John, making their way onto the pit apron, ready for the serious business of qualifying. It's a very tight timetable. They've had 2 free practice sessions, now 2 qualifying, then a race, and to a degree you've got to get through this with a good time, but also no fuss.
Well, let's go back all the way back to 2004, 2005. There has been one constant, and that is the circuit is built in the middle of what might be loosely described as a desert-style countryside. So there is always the element of a little bit of that sand being blown. The wind actually right now is blowing barely, so the track is at current times just about as it's going to get. But of course the big difference is from the session that we had just over an hour ago, and it was Turkey that ended up being the quickest nation of all the 18 nations here, is that the ambient temperature is beginning to slowly drop, and probably by the time we get to the conclusion of this qualifying session, it will be getting at a point where it's not going to be dark, but it will be getting darker, and therefore temperature is dropping, and therefore the thing that every driver this weekend has been discussing has been fundamental grip. How do you get it? And once you get it, how do you retain it?
And do they yet have an answer? Well,
don't ask me.
No, indeed. It is going to be very interesting to see how they manage this at the end of a race, particularly if today, for example, you're putting your faster driver in at the end, because he's going to be asking more out of those tyres.
I mean, tyre management, boring subject. But actually, it'll be the route of which of these nations comes out on top on Saturday evening, because the team or the drivers within that team who are careful, and they have to do is win the final. That's where the big money shot is.
We'll be talking about the nations. Of course, the drivers play a part in this. Of course, they are instrumental. But it is the FIA GT Nations Cup. And as I say, 2 drivers from the same country to represent their nation. 18 in total. 1 or 2 lost on track time because the cars were late arriving here because of all sorts of transit dramas. That's thankfully all now sorted out. And they are good to go racing at a circuit at which very few of this entry have raced in the past.
Yes, I mean, for most people competing, the 18 nations and 36 drivers, 1 or 2 of them may have competed in other disciplines here at this Bahrain International Circuit. I mean, it's a great racetrack. Although it's a thoroughly modern circuit, the facility is just mind-boggling. I mean, I have only seen a fraction of it, and what I've seen is it is extremely impressive. But it is a circuit in the Middle East where you get extremes of particularly high temperature in the daytime. In the wintertime, or the colder periods, it can get really cold. So the construction of particularly of the tarmac is designed to be durable, coping with all weather conditions. And that in itself has then got a knock-on effect, because it's probably as best described as being an aggressive surface, which then puts pressures on teams and drivers to come up with a kind of car configuration that will enable them to baby the tyre through the entire, particularly during the qualifying race or in the final race itself. So it'll be about tyre management and caution, and that's where the more experienced driver, the silver driver particularly, will come into his own. And with the bronze drivers who have maybe not driven in this circuit or experienced the differential between what would be maybe at midday and what would be close to 9 o'clock on Saturday evening when the final will come to its end, it'll be night and day. Sorry for the pun, but it will be night and day different.
Now there,
actually, that was a great album. Joe Jackson, Night and Day, one of my favourites.
As our first tangent of the day. There also is the Belgian entry. That's the Charles Weerts by Dentant Audi, the Vincent Voss WRT squad operating that car. It almost seems odd, doesn't it, to come to an event where there's only one WRT entry. However, it is the one Audi on the grid.
It's even odder when it's not actually painted up in the colours of WRT anyway.
Indeed, because you have to carry as close as your national colours, the white Ferrari with the Japanese flag on the roof. That is going to be driven in Q1 by Kenji Abe, or Ken Sito, to give him his westernised title. Looking across from the circuit, John's not been here before. It's 10 years since I was last here, and the place has certainly evolved as a facility. And there's a very impressive kart circuit. There's a drifting course here as well, and the fans will be getting themselves into position shortly, no doubt, to watch not only qualifying but also the first of these Nations Cup races.
Just seeing, this is the second of the key corners on the lap. That's the final turn 14. There is a curve which constitutes turn 15, but it's 14 that leads on to the main pit straight. But then at the end of the pit straight, one of the areas where overtaking has been most common and also probably considered to be notorious, into turn 1, and it's a tight right, then you've got a short straight, then back to the left, and then turn 3 is a quick flick back to the right, which takes you all the way down a reasonable straight into turn 4. So the first third of this racetrack, quite technical. The middle part of then into sector 2 is the really technical bit. The S is a sequence of lefts and rights that are going downhill into turn 8. Turn 8 a quarter. There'll be more lines than I think, you know. Who's your favourite comic? Who's your favourite comedian? More lines than they've got.
Teams prepare, and it's the bronze driver, the slower driver in most cases, who will do Q1. There are 1 or 2 teams where you've got 2 bronze drivers, like Japan, for example, Kensito and Tatsu Kondo. The session is live then, 20 minutes. We are in business for, and it is China that goes out first. There is the Porsche, 910, the number on the side of it, and it is Li Chao who will drive that car. He's a regular in this sort of car in the China GT Championship. It's got a very, very charismatic livery. A lot of effort has been put in by many of the teams on the colours. This created by Wu Junyong. It depicts a battle between a dragon and a tiger, and it is a very impressive paint scheme.
But also the number, what does that symbolise, David? 910. Can you tell me, you know about Porsche history, you're a Porsche aficionado?
I'm getting there. Tell me.
Well, it was one of Porsche's classic mid-60s sports prototype race cars, which became a customer car. It was the evolution of the Porsche Carrera 6, which then came into the 910, the 910, which had the flat 6 air-cooled Porsche engine in it, and great success, and then that led on to even more successful, slightly larger engines with different cylinder configurations, 8s and 12s. Anyway, I think maybe one of the owners of this particular car might own a Porsche 910. Lucky gentleman or lady, if it is.
Possibly so. I'm half expecting somebody to crop up with number 70 on the side, celebrating Porsche's 70th year. There for Hong Kong is the Nissan. It was a late change away from Lexus to Nissan. It's Gen 2 Nissan GTR. 1 or 2 of the nations staying in the pit lane, because you're probably only going to get drivers telling us a good 2 laps out of a set of tyres in qualifying. So, right time.
I mean, to me, you go out and do your out lap. Your first flying lap has got to be the lap on which you ought to achieve the ultimate time for that particular session. If you've got to go into 2 flying laps or 3 flying laps, you're doing potentially, well, unless you're badly balked on your first flying lap, your second one isn't going to be better than your first flying lap. And all you're doing is then just wearing that tire. Our nations and drivers doing long runs, because the tire, if it's a new tire, but even if it's a fresh tire, it's maybe done 1 lap or so, as we saw when we had the earlier 1 hour 20-minute practice session. You want to preserve tyres. If you put them in aspect, even better.
And also bear in mind that it's a 2-minute lap. By the time you've done an out lap and a start-up lap, you haven't got much of the session left anyway. You're not going to be able to do that many qualifying laps.
An out, an in, an out, a flying and an in is approximately 10 miles. In my book, that's about 8 miles too many. But unfortunately, it'll not get you a flying lap. It'll not even get you to start a flying lap, because the length of the circuit is 5.4 kilometres, 3.36 miles. So you've got to do the miles, and that, of course, more miles is more tyre wear, and possibly you're getting into the area when the tyre will...
Is China, PR China to give it its full title for the entry, People's Republic of China, and Li Chao is the man behind the wheel of the car. Started off in the Chinese Volkswagen Polo Cup a long time ago. He was the runner-up in that in 2009. He's the bronze-graded 38-year-old driver, and he's had a lot of experience in single-seaters, in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, in Carrera Cup Asia, and most recently China GT. So he's no stranger to this car.
No, but he is a stranger to this particular circuit.
Indeed.
And it is the idiosyncrasies of the circuit. I mean, I don't know, has he driven this car, do you think, in any other competition?
Yeah, China GT.
Oh, he's been in this car,
yeah,
so
yeah.
He's familiar with the 911, the GT3R configuration, engine hanging out over the back axle, engineering, development over design is how it's been described to me, and I hate people when they say that. They're just jealous.
He's also got his regular China GT co-driver here doing the driver coaching. That's Chris Vandergrift, the New Zealander, member of the BRDC, and Chris, triple Carrera Cup Asia champion himself. So certainly Li Chao and Liu Yi, his co-driver, having somebody very useful to tap into for experience and for knowledge. So we are about to get a target time, I suspect, out of China. You're riding on board the 911 GT3R then as it comes out of turn number 14 up towards the timing line, breaks the beam and does a 2 minutes 7.901. There's more to come from that car, and there's certainly more to come in the second session with the silver driver.
Well, there will be. I mean, 2:07 is the best part of 6.4 seconds away from the fastest time we saw just over an hour ago. Turkey did that time, a Mercedes AMG GT3, so maybe the China time is not representative, truly representative, and maybe bronze drivers, so we're not maybe anticipating them going out and doing what a pro driver would do, which is hanging out and maybe drive a car not actually balanced the way he wants, but with the grip that he wants.
But that said, there are drivers in this that are no slouch, like Renat Salikov, who's just put Russia at the top of the times, and here Italy, represented by Giuseppe Perezzini, 0.3 of a second back. In the background is Japan, so the pit lane is gradually emptying. I don't think anybody can really moan about traffic at the moment because there are so few cars that have gone rushing out. They are neatly staggered, and there are still a few that haven't ventured out at all.
Well, maybe some of them are going to hang back because quite frequently in these brief qualifying sessions, the later you go out, the better track conditions might be, and it's one of the oddities of racetracks that at the beginning of a session, even though it might have been in use only an hour ago, it does change. Its complexion changes, everything changes. You can go out in a car, you finish the session with balance perfect, you go out an hour later, oh, got a bit of understeer here or a bit of oversteer there. Explain it, just how it is. Aerodynamics change, air is getting a little bit heavier, more dense. Engines are benefiting from that marginally with that drop in ambient temperature. So track, and a little bit of a bobble there coming through turn 12 for the Italian entry, currently, third place. Malaysia up to second. So that's Alex Young, the Malaysian former, Malaysia's probably best known motorsport star.
Yes, I think you're right. And he still gets a huge amount of attention, even though he...
with those film star looks, don't believe it.
I was going to say, not quite as successful as he used to be. He's had a bit of a lean season this year in GT racing, but he's still very much a character as a driver, as a media person. Italy goes quickest now. Giuseppe Perezzini, 2 minutes 3.411. There is the fastest car, the Ferrari of Italy. It's run by the AF Corsa team. And it's Ferrari 1-2 at the moment because you've got Russia second, thanks to Renat Salikov. Now there's the McLaren of Sweden, Alexander West at the wheel of it, the Hong Kong-based Swede, who's done many a mile in the international Blancpain. And a spin in the background, look, somebody's got it all wrong coming out of turns 2 and 3. It's not Alexander West because this is his view up at turn 4, but there has been a spin coming out of turn 2.
And Alexander West needed to get past, and he's had to get on the brakes. So it is the Italian Ferrari, the car that has gone quickest, has spun unnecessarily into the gravel, got to get it going, but not do a heap of good for that set of tyres. And the China Porsche, which is currently, it is in 5th place, gets out of the way, let traffic that's coming from behind go through. So there is Alexander West, and I mean, he is a bronze driver, but actually with the level of experience that he's generated over the last couple of seasons is probably encroaching into the territory of a silver driver.
So a spin for Italy, and Alexander West goes through, as now Thailand, thanks to Piti Bhirombhakdi, goes to the top of the time. So it's another Ferrari, and that, as you look at the Sweden McLaren, that's a real turnaround for Thailand, because Piti Bhirombhakdi was saying in free practice 2, car won't grip, car won't handle, but now it's quickest.
We saw the Thai Ferrari. It was like it was driving on ice. He was seemingly finding the slipperiest bits of racetrack at every corner. The car was almost impossible to drive. But there we are, fresh rubber, cooler temperatures, and they are presently on what the best lap is, a 2:10.85. That's a strong lap. That's the lap actually from Belgium, because Mick Dentant has gone and done a lap time almost matching the quickest time we saw earlier. That was the Turkey time. So Belgium now quickest, Thailand second, Italy third, Argentina fourth.
Thailand has found about 3 seconds, given what they were doing in FP2. Another improvement, Sweden, Alexander West goes 7th. So West improving, Sweden improving. And where's the next improver going to be? It's going to be Argentina, isn't it? Because Jose Manuel Balbiani has done the absolute best for Argentina. Belarus, the top 6. There, over the timing line, goes the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. And this is the Russian car. Renat Salenkov goes 5th, but doesn't go any quicker on that lap. Missed out by 7/10 of a second.
So it's Argentina. We thought that was going to be one of the sleepers amongst the 18 nations. Wait to see what they will complete. They're currently still in 6th place. We're seeing them Bruce from Belarus up to 3rd place. That's a great effort considering the little amount of running that they had today due to a minor off. This is the United Kingdom, Chris Buncombe, 2:01.750. First time we've seen anybody. No, he's not. He's 2/10 slower than he was. But still, GB, we didn't see a lot of them either.
So the UK, currently the fastest. Replay here of Johnny Larson for Denmark. Now, what's he been up to in his Ferrari? He's got it all a bit squirrely, sideways, off the road, catches it. That's all down at turn 10. Gets away with it. So the United Kingdom heads all the other nations at the moment. Forget Brexit. We're the quickest by 55 thousandths of a second. Chris Buncombe for the UK, ahead of Belgium, Thailand, Argentina, Belarus and Italy. That's the top 6.
So it's working like that. Hopefully getting a clear first flying lap, and if they don't, they've always got the opportunity to do that second one, but one would normally assume as Turkey hops up now into 4th place. They were the team that dominated, not with Salakuna driving the car, but nonetheless that is a time that's a time that will do them, starting currently in the second row, provisional second row.
Yeah, 4th fastest than Turkey, but Chris Buncombe's on another demon lap here, because not only is he the fastest, he's done the absolute best in sector 1. You're looking at Russia at the moment, and this is Renat Salenkov, who has dropped back to 12, and he's not improving on this lap either. So Salenkov, dare one say that he's not rushing around at the moment, heads up towards the timing line, but I can't see much, if any, improvement coming out of this. He goes through, breaks the beam, and the next one is the one that's going to be a quick lap. Japan pits, so that is Kenji Abe in the pit road. We've got just under 6 minutes of the session to go. Buncombe then, absolute best, personal best. There he is. Brother Alex is here. Dad Jonathan himself, of course, a very successful car racer, watching his lad get it all wrong down at the end of the lap, down at turn 14.
He got it all wrong on the entry. He rode the curb and the track and lost that momentum. So disappointing 3rd sector on a lap that might have seen a further improvement from the 93, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, United Kingdom Ferrari. So Chris Buncombe maintains that overall pole or provisional pole position. Could have been better, just maybe a little bit too anticipating too much on the entry to turn 14.
Here it is again.
Watch as he goes in. Look at the front of the car. Up it goes, hop, skip and a jump. And then once he gets onto the curb, it just draws him further and further. Lucky to get the car back, because that's dusty on the outside of the exit of 50. Argentina up to 3rd position. Personal best all the way through for Jose Manuel Balbiani.
Indeed, sorry, I was about to say we also saw Alexander Matschel walking away from his car for Germany. Matschel 11th. Now here is Mike Dentant. Personal best, absolute best. Is this going to be provisional pole position? Chris Buncombe is 55 thousandths quicker. Over the line goes Mike Dentant. It looks good. It is good. And the time is 2 minutes 1.397.
That's the time that the United Kingdom, Chris Buncombe, ought to have done had he not made that error into and gained the benefit. Not only did he go through the corner quicker, he was able to carry that speed then all the way down the quickest part of the racetrack to make up that best part of 3.353 of a second advantage over United Kingdom.
And Mike Dentan returning to racing. Last full season back in 2004. He's done 1 or 2 national races just to get his licence back up to scratch, but it's been a long layoff for him, but he's looking pretty good. As there is Jose Manuel Barbiani, then regular Ferrari racer, installed into a Lamborghini for the first time, and the Argentine has got his cousin, his younger cousin, Ezequiel Perez Compang, for company in this car. But Barbiani we've seen regularly in Blancpain GT over the years, briefly in British GT as well. Runs wide, coming out of the corner, accelerates then now out from turn 13 down towards the end of the lap. And on this lap, Barbiani 2 personal bests. Can he get himself onto the front row of the grid?
Well, he's certainly done a good job, considering this car's done a number of laps now, and it's on its 5th flying lap. Others around have done a similar number of laps, but this is the 5th flying. No.
Goes quicker, but stays third.
Yeah.
2 minutes 2.120, so gets nearer the pace of Chris Buncombe, who has pitted incidentally. We have got 2 minutes and 38 seconds still to go, and that means that there's a lap and a bit left in the session. So Barbiani, if the tyres are still good, can have another go.
Fathers and sons, Australia down in 15th place in Porsche 911. Fathers and sons, Belarus 6th place in a Ferrari, which was in the, well, I was going to say the catch fence, it was actually in the tyre barrier. And a long time spent getting that car turned around, but they did with about 12 minutes of the practice session that was 1.5 hours ago now remaining.
The Belarus drivers, father and son, pretty experienced since they began a decade ago. Alexander Tukin, a senior, is doing this National GT Open. He's done the Dubai 24 Hours, the World Endurance, the Blancpain Endurance, European Le Mans Series, the Michelin Le Mans Cup. You name it, he has been there and done it. And pretty much every turn, son Alexander Tukin, a junior, in the car, in the same team with him. Down to turn 14 comes Tukin, a senior. On this lap, no improvement in Sector 1 nor Sector 2, so I don't think we're going to get an improvement out of him, but to be on the third row, not a bad effort.
I think it's an excellent effort. He's coming into the pits. He's decided rightly too there's no point doing another lap, which is another 3.3 miles on that set of Pirelli rubber, so brings it in. There is the Belgium Audi being swung around. Belgium currently leading the pack.
That's right.
Still leading the pack.
That's in terms of time, not just in terms of the best beer. 3 of a second from the United Kingdom, and then it's Argentina third. Turkey fourth, Thailand fifth. Reference to their beer, saying that Petit Beer on Bafati is the heir to the Singer beer empire. And sixth is Belarus.
What is it with you and Trappists? You might want to explain.
Trappist beer, 5 Belgian beer. Mike Denton, I'm sure his son's a bit late because he's been race training. Clamber out of the car. Good job, that, considering, as I say, how little mileage he's done in recent years.
Yeah, and I think also a Petit Beer on Bacti in the Thailand Ferrari, we saw that car really, I mean, I felt so sorry for the guy. I almost went down the pit lane to give him an arm around the shoulder and say, look, it's not your fault, Petit, it's just simply you haven't got the grip. Resulted in a very good overall 5th position.
And also chapeau to Belarus, because as we've been saying, Telkinitzes have done a good job. Mexico had a spin in FP2. Martin Fuentes, flag is out incidentally now, chicken flag is out. Martin Fuentes had a spin, but he's trying to haul the car up the order. Now, somebody's under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. It is Pier Giuseppe Perezzini for Italy.
Oh,
culpa.
Anyway, you can see as the cars come down into turn 14 that they're driving directly into the sun as it's beginning to set in the west. And also, actually, as you're in some shots, you can see also a sheen on the surface of the racetrack, on the racing line, coming into the braking zone, which is also an element of you have to focus on where am I going to brake. And maybe if that part of the circuit has just inherently got a little bit less grip in the tarmac, you've got to take that into account.
And so there is Turkey, which was very good in FP2. Last lap was an improvement, in fact, by Salah Yola. Petit Beer on Bafti might yet go quicker again, you know, because he's done a personal best in Sector 1. We are not quite done yet. Belgium, United Kingdom, Argentina, 1, 2, 3, they're all in the pit lane. There's this investigation over Italy now, and I don't think Yolok is going to go any quicker, and I'm not entirely sure that Beron Bafti is now either. I think he has kind of shot his bolt a little bit in the first section of the lap. Mike Dentat's overjoyed about that. As I say, it's been a long time really since we've seen him do anything regular in racing, and you've got to go all the way back to 2004 and Formula Renault in both Italy and then a few races in the Euro Cup. But Mike Dentant quicker by 0.3 of a second from Chris Buncombe. So Mike Dentant it is who is quickest at the end of Q1, and our reporter Bruce Jones is down in the pit lane to have a word with the Belgian.
Mike Dentant, we're halfway through qualifying. You've done the most important task, fastest in the first.
We made big progress compared to the start of the day, and now we can continue like this.
But you have to keep thinking because the track temperature and the air temperature keeps changing. It's now already dropping quite fast.
Yeah, but it felt very good.
Okay, but you've got a young challenger, Charles Weerts, going out. He's new to GT racing, so it's a big challenge.
He's, for me, one of the biggest talents in Belgium, and usually he's always faster than me, so we'll see what he's doing, but I trust in him.
Okay, we'll see. Thanks, Mike.
Well, Charles Weerts, who will go next, is the 2017-2018 Formula 4 United Arab Emirates champion. He won that with 8 wins for the and is a talented driver indeed. He's also been 5th in the German Formula 4 Championship last year. But Mike Dentant, there he is, the fastest for the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT. So Belgium tops the times from the United Kingdom, 0.353 of a second. Argentina third, thanks to the efforts of Jose Manuel Balbiani. And then it's Turkey fourth, Salih Yoluk with the Mercedes. Fifth, the Ferrari from Thailand, that's Piti Bhirombhakdi ahead of the Ferrari of Belarus, Alexander Talkanitsa Senior. Seventh, Sweden, McLaren, Alexander West. Eighth, provisionally, Italy, Ferrari, Pier Giuseppe Perezzini. Ninth, Hong Kong, Nissan Alex Au. 10th, Ferrari, Mexico, Martin Fuentes. There is Piti Bhirombhakdi giving way to Passin Lathoris. I haven't found him yet, but I have heard that Matt Griffin is here to do driver coaching for that team, and if he is, then they will benefit immeasurably from a very quick Irish driver.
Yes, indeed, and Matt does a number of things under the guise of being a contracted Ferrari, is it AF Corsa?
AF Corsa driver, yeah.
So he not only drives, but he can be brought in, and if nothing else better to do, he can explain the nuances of a Pinot Noir over a Cabernet Sauvignon, because he has a bit of a wine collection.
Is he?
Oh, yeah. He's Irish, what do you expect?
True enough.
Why is Ireland not here?
Well, where are your GT drivers? That's the problem.
Well, there's quite a few of them. Andrew Watson. We play as a rugby, we play as a nation, as a rugby.
Okay.
That's why we beat the All Blacks the other day.
That's a fair point. Okay. Stand corrected.
And why is New Zealand?
Well, indeed. I think there was very nearly a team, wasn't there? Chris Patrick really got that together, but it's difficult for Sam to get the budget together late in the season. But I reckon 18 cars for a first time of this event ain't bad going at all. SRO plus the FIA have done a very, very good job. There are lots of other teams, got a driver but not a co-driver, 2 drivers but we couldn't get a team or couldn't get a car, so a few more things to fall into place. But I think on the basis of this weekend and people seeing what a success it can be, it'll be even bigger and better next year. Jim Pla is ready to leap aboard France Mercedes. Now only 13th, Jean-Luc Bobelic in Q1.
That's slightly disappointing because he was, I thought, pretty good in that
final
practice session we had a little earlier in the afternoon. Certainly the car looked great and he looked very confident in the car, but maybe didn't quite get it to gel in that 20-minute session. So now as Jim Pla will take over, and just interested to see whether what we saw with the Mercedes was a really thousand again, probably running for the first time this weekend on brand new fresh Pirelli rubber. They've found the time that they weren't able to access when they were doing those 2 practice sessions earlier today.
Now what about this car for fastest in Q2? Ezequiel Perez compact, he knows the car inside out. Could he be the quickest?
Very good chance. I've certainly watched his progress over the last couple of years, and I think what he's achieved in 2018 in the Volonpin Sprint and endurance events has been impressive, and he's done it on merit. He's not just been lucking into situations. So a big step forward for Ezequiel Perez compact. And we did ask him about his name, Ezequiel, and isn't his second Christian name Joachim?
He's got a brother called
Joachim.
Joachim.
Okay, Joachim. Anyway, both from biblical backgrounds, but he's not particularly religious himself. He did manage to point that out. Sitting and looking into the cockpit of the Ferrari. Everything these days, well, more or less, of course. Lights and other issues, wipers, for example, not on the steering wheel, but a lot of the controls for ABS and for traction control will be on that sort of, it's like a cut-off version of a steering wheel.
Joystick almost, isn't it? So the cars can go to the fast lane, the 10-minute interval, driver change complete, and then the session will be underway very shortly.
Gen 2 Nissan, big step forward in terms of the layout of the car. The initial version of the Nissan GTR was very much a road car that was adapted to racing. Also, maybe much in the way that the initial Bentley Continental GT3, when it appeared. And then Bentley went forward with the Gen 2 car with a really, really sophisticated car, and likewise with the Nissan GTR. Engine now buried so far back. I mean, can't believe they got it that far back in the chassis, along with a lot of further modifications around the weight distribution, center of gravity, all the things that you want to do to make effectively a road car into near enough to a pure race car.
Lights starting to fade. The floodlights are on all the way around the circuit. So even though we're talking about a night race, it is going to be pretty well lit, even around the circuit by 7:30. We've just touched on Argentina, and Jose Manuel Balbiani has done his work for the moment. In the pit lane, Bruce Jones has caught up with him.
Jose Manuel Balbiani, your work is done for now. You've done the first part of the qualifying for Argentina. Ezekiel, your cousin, has been put into the car. Track conditions changing all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it improved in the afternoon in the free practice too, and now it felt a bit, I don't know, maybe the brake points are a bit maybe gammy in my car, and maybe also for everyone. Of course, we improved because of the tire, and there's much more tire on the track. But yeah, I mean, I think we did a decent job. I knew the car this morning. The team arrived in a rush. So far, if I compare with the other two bronze drivers, that one is a karting championship and the other one is a professional driver, I have to be pleased with my laps. We need to improve just a bit of things in the car. Which of pair of driver, we are quite okay. We are okay, and we hope for a good result for tonight.
Exactly, that's the important thing. Best of luck to Ezekiel. You've done your bit. Go and cool down. Thank you, Jose.
Thank you very much. See you.
Former Spanish SEAT championship racer, Argentine touring car racer. Go back a decade. He was, in the early days of the FIA GT3 European Championship, the Ferrari champion in 2008, raced in the Argentine touring cars. We've seen him in FIA GT, in Blancpain, in British GT, Nürburgring 24 Hours, the American Endurance Championship. So, very experienced driver is Jose Manuel Balbiani, but he's the bronze graded driver.
And a car collector.
He is, and he's got a nice Mercedes, I hear.
He rocked up to Zolder, the first round of the Blancpain Sprint Championship this year, and I was given a tap on the shoulder and said, John, there's something very special you must go and see. So I went into the paddock and wondered what it was. Thought it might have been, I don't know. Turned out that Jose had found, somehow or other in Spain, a car that I'd raced, which was a very special car because it was part of a group of 20 or so cars that Mercedes-Benz produced to use in a celebrity promotion race at the opening of the, what you might call the new Nürburgring in 1984. It was a Mercedes-Benz 190 16-valve, 2.3 16-valve, and Mercedes produced these cars. Somehow or other, it, I don't know, ended up in Spain. He heard about it, was advised to buy it because I don't know how many of them remain, and that was the surprise.
It was your car.
Would rather have a case of Petrus myself.
That was the race that Ayrton Senna won, wasn't it?
It was.
It was sort of legends of Formula One and one or two of the current generation as well.
I mean, it was a lot of oldies but goodies.
Now, Chris Buncan, second fastest for the UK in Q1. First time he's ever raced this particular Ferrari. He's with Bruce in the pits.
United Kingdom was going to be at the top of the charts. Talk us through it. Very, very nearly happened. What went wrong?
Frustrating, yeah. I mean, that last lap, it just touched the apex curve of the last corner, which knocked me wide, and just looked on the data, that was 6/10. So yeah, it most likely was the pole that I lost, but it's been a steep learning curve for me today. I only jumped in the curve Ferrari for the first time this morning, so it's yeah, as I say, it's been a lot to learn, but the car feels awesome now.
I mean, I think this weekend at the FIA GT Nations Cup is a real mixing pot, isn't it? You've spent the whole year racing Mercedes. Other drivers have never raced in GT3. Almost nobody's raced here before. And the fact you have to work as a pairing is a lot to be considered.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we can't really session, but I'm really happy with our position. Front row start. I couldn't really ask for more than that. Happy.
And Chris Froggatt standing behind us, it says Ferrari challenge on his shoulders, so for him at least the car isn't too much of a shock in terms of the shape.
Yeah, exactly, the shape, but GT3 time is limited for him, but he did a great job through free practice this morning, so yeah, fingers crossed.
Keep them crossed, well done.
Thanks.
So in the background, Chris Froggatt gets ready to get aboard the Sky-backed Ferrari. Chris, the European Ferrari Challenge champion from Trofeo Pirelli, Chris Buncombe, Jonathan Buncombe, Alex Buncombe, all there in the pit bunker. And Q2 is underway, and there's the one car that is, so far, venturing out onto the circuit. The whole place takes on a different complexion, doesn't it?
And just to the left of the racetrack is the drag strip here in Bahrain, quarter mile, and something eclipsed time at the end of it, about 325 or 9 miles an hour. Pretty quick to me, but anyway, there is, what a magic sort of, just beautiful shot here of the sun beginning to set over the Bahrain International Circuit. And I mean, the only benefit of going out first is that so far nobody else has ventured out, and you're going to go on to your flying lap. I assume by the time he gets back to start finish line, he still might be the only car on the track, and you can't ask for a better situation.
Absolutely. As there, the Italian Ferrari is ready to go out now with Matteo Cressoni at the wheel. Now in Q1 that car was 8th, was Luca Perezzini at the wheel. This was the car that was at the foot of the times, Japan. But these are two drivers who are largely stepping up from the Ferrari Challenge, which is a slower, rather more basic, if you can have a basic Ferrari, compared to a proper GT3 car.
Yeah, the GT3 is sort of cutting edge of what GT3 racing is all about, and a lot more aerodynamics, and consequently then you get better braking. Grip levels also will have gone up due to the aerodynamics, and running on the Pirelli tyre that is run fundamentally in the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance Championships, and that in itself is a tyre that was upgraded at the back end of 2017, slightly changed in construction, particularly at the rear, and everybody then much happier with the kind of tyre balance that they got. But Japan coming down into Sector 1. Surprise, surprise, we've got a purple in Sector 1.
By dint of being the only car out there, yes, well, that's one for the album, isn't it? So the rather understated Ferrari coming there round the back of the paddocks.
Oh, I hate those curbs. And it runs way, way wide. Had he not run that curb, he may well have made the apex. Those curbs just drag you away from the race line, and going to see more of this kind of curbing around a lot more circuits, particularly Grade 1, FIA Grade 1 racetracks. So listen, is he flat through turn 11, 12? I haven't heard anybody yet manage to get 12 committed, flat committed.
So there, the Ferrari will in a moment encounter traffic because Malaysia going out onto the circuit. The Axel Motorsports Alex Young run Audi, Mitchell Cheer at the wheel. Now this could be quite interesting because Mitchell Cheer didn't do many laps in FP2, but those that he did were quite competitive. Matthew Cressoni has gone out as well, but Mitchell Cheer could be a bit of a star in the making, couldn't he?
Cars 18 and 34 under investigation, impeding during Q1.
Well, that's Balbiani, 18 for Argentina, and Turkey is 34, Salihyolik. Target time, 2
two
minutes
cars in the top
9.124.
four.
Yeah.
2 cars in the top 4. That'll be an interesting dynamic. So comes across the line, 2 minutes 9.2, and that is not shatteringly quick.
It's a gentle start-up lap, should we call it? But the pit lane is emptying, the sun is setting, and say what you like about racing in the Middle East, but it just is something different. Yes, it's a Tilke circuit. Yes, it's very different from what you're used to in Europe, but it does have its own charm.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, this is a great racetrack. The problem is the regulations that, particularly we think of Formula One and to some degree LMP cars, they've got so much, aero just dominates it so much. You put a GT3 car on it, the cars are moving around, they're spectacular. So watch these cars coming out of turn 4 all the way down to turn 8. the car is never really pointing in a straight line, and especially once they go into a run where they've done maybe a dozen or more laps on a set of tyres, then the car is a real handful, and that's a reflection of the fundamentals of the racetrack. It is actually a very demanding racetrack, somewhat truncated by the aeros on contemporary single-seaters and world prototypes.
It's been a busy place this over the years. It's had the Formula 3 Super Prix here, it's had the Formula BMW World Cup, it's had VM supercars, it's had, of course, the Grand Prix continually since it came in 2004. It's had sports car racing, be it prototypes or GT, and a burgeoning national scene as well. Mitchell Cheer then about to start a flying lap, comes up towards the timing line, goes through, and the clock now starts at 2 minutes. It's also going to be interesting to see where Charles Vett slots in all of this relative to time set by his co-driver, Mike Dentan. 2 minutes 1. The Malaysian colours across the front and across the roof. Whoops, a little bit sideways, coming out of turn 1 into the turn 2, 3, 4 sequence.
Yeah, I mean, that's just indicative of what drivers are saying, that the level of grip is fundamentally overall low, and you try to drive through it, and that's the consequence. You get that sudden back end snap oversteer, so you've got to really stay away from going that far. You just got to keep the car within its own, I suppose, the car's own limits. Otherwise, you'll end up destroying your tyre. You'll have tyre wear, tyre degradation.
And they don't want to destroy anything,
no,
especially not the car, given that they've got a race within a couple of hours. Cheer has done the absolute best now in the first sector, comfortably quicker than the Ferrari of Japan. So here, Malaysia should go top at the end of this lap. Mitchell Cheer is down in turn 10 now. The racetrack crammed in, as John was saying, it's over 5 kilometres long. Now there is Charles Weerts for Belgium, just up the road. The two Audis, one on a flyer, that's Malaysia, and Belgium on a start-up lap. So the Malaysia Audi hoping that he doesn't get caught up behind that slower car, but I think it should be okay, actually.
Just the concern would be coming out of turn 13, while the Audi, the Belgian Audi just ahead, is getting itself prepared to go onto a flying lap. Sometimes you do things in preparation that can have a bearing overall. Whoa! Ride him, cowboy! Well, that's a little bit of overdriving, a little bit of abuse of that left rear tyre, and consequently, probably maybe lost a best part of a second doing so.
Time for Malaysia. It should still be a half decent lap, but he'll know that that one got away from him. Malaysia then comes up over the line. Let's see what the time is. Being broken, time set 2 minutes 3.738, but it all unravelled in that last sector.
I mean, that lap would have been, in my view, up to a second a lap quicker if he hadn't had that moment in turn 13. Even in 14, the car was oversteering. So consolidating, watch again and see. Suddenly the back gets away, he steps on the gas and drives through it. Just keeps the car absolutely, the throttle anyway, nailed. Not pretty, but not in, okay, 2 or 3 ain't going to get you into the top 6, but it shows that the potential is there. Yeah. Argentina, Ezequiel Perez Compact gets it all wrong as well.
TCR Asia this year, so front-wheel drive touring car, rear-wheel drive GT car. Compact goes second for Argentina, but it's Italy. Matteo Cressoni the fastest, 2 minutes 1.509, not quite as quick, believe it or not, as we had in Q1, but I suspect there is more to come. And now France does a 2 minutes 1.299 to go top. Jim Clark quicker than anybody in qualifying, be it Q1 or Q2. France is at the top.
Probably no big surprise. That was a car looked pretty good in practice.
Yep.
So got the AMG GT, Mercedes AMG GT3 representing France. Jimmy Plough behind the wheel. So personal best, first and second sector, but the fastest overall, and key probably to that sudden position change up to quickest overall in that final sector. So good exit out of turn 14.
Now this car, two absolute bests. It is the Audi of Belgium. Charles Weerts is the man behind the wheel, but Charles then coming down towards turn 14. He's got pretty much a clear road ahead of him. As long as he doesn't make a mistake here at the last corner like others have done, he should put Belgium to the top. Can we get him below a 2 minute? Is 2 minutes 0.136. He's quicker by 11 tenths of a second.
No,
That's
he's quicker by 1.1 seconds.
Yeah, 11 tenths of a second. He's quicker.
Right, okay.
So a great effort that by Charles Weerts, isn't it? And two absolute bests and a personal best. But now Cressoni for Italy is having a go. And what's happened for second?
Chris Fogart in the United Kingdom Ferrari has gone second on the 2:01.077, and now Italy has gone second quickest, UK down to third. So it's Audi, Ferrari, Mercedes AMG and Lamborghini.
There's your totem pole on the screen. It's Belgium, Italy, United Kingdom, France, Argentina, Belarus, Malaysia, Russia, Thailand, Australia, China, Japan, Mexico, Denmark, Hong Kong, Turkey, Sweden, Germany. Nico Bastian has yet to do a lap. In fact, everybody, Mexico down, has yet to do a lap time. So that's all going to shuffle a little bit.
This is their first flying lap, so they have yet to record a lap. We know that car was very quick earlier today. So can they get up? And they go second.
Briefly, down to third, because France is back to second, but Ayhan Guven has done a 2 minute 0.952. Turkey third. It's Belgium, France, Turkey, Italy, UK, Argentina.
Interesting that France maybe picked up a little bit of a benefit coming off the final turn on the Turkey Mercedes to get up into second place. Just use that maybe a tenth or two of a second advantage. And the gap between, in fact, the two Mercedes is absolutely nothing.
Victor Bouveng over the line, and that's for Sweden. The McLaren breaks the beam,
but not with his entry into turn one, overshot it pretty badly. So again, puts himself out of position coming out of turn one and having to compromise through two, and then the consequence of three. So unfortunately, this lap will suffer as a consequence of that overrun into turn one. This is turn four, and you can see the little rise there to the left was an alteration which they introduced to the circuit a decade or more ago. Thankfully they dropped it, because it was frankly awful. The original layout of the track, nothing wrong with it at all.
Drop down the hill now, approach turn 8. You can go up the inside to overtake there, but you get it wrong, you can run way out wide. Short straight, kink at 9, corner at 10.
T entrances at 9 and 10.
Denmark's in the top 10 incidentally as you ride with Sweden, because Nicholas Nielsen has just done a 2 minutes 2.724 only for Germany. Nico Bastian to go 8th and demote him.
Thought that Nico Bastian might have done a little bit more, bearing in mind he's been extremely strong this year in Mercedes AMG when he was acting as co-driver to Jack Manchester.
But it's a new car for him. He's in a Ferrari for the first time. He's also a lap adrift from everybody else out late. Nicholas Nielsen, absolute best. Denmark looking good. So the Scandinavian countries here, you're riding with Sweden looking quick. Denmark is doing good things in sectors. Can we get anybody below 2 minutes before the end of the session?
I don't know if... I mean, that's a 0.5 Hertz. He doesn't really need to bother. He's got half a second plus advantage. So why would he really want to?
But look at the others that are hustling on. Nielsen has done an absolute best. Turkey goes second. Ayhan Guven. And what about Sweden on that lap? For Victor Bouveng, it was a 2 minutes 2.133.
Alexander West eyes out on Storks, watches his car, but actually a car that we might want to watch is Denmark.
Yeah,
Nicholas Nielsen, fastest overall sector 1,
personal best sector 2. If anybody's going to get you below 2 minutes now, he is the man, because he is pushing like mad. Here is Victor Bouveng then, still going for Sweden, still pressing on. He's 8th fastest now. He improved on that last lap. Behind him, we've got one of the Porsches. That's the China Porsche. That's now got Leo Yi at the wheel. Here comes Denmark. This then for Nicholas Nielsen. Second fastest, 2 minutes 0.646, half a second shy of this.
Good run. Good run. So it's Audi, Ferrari, Belgium and Denmark. So that's a strong run for Nicholas Nielsen to do. Plays the Ferrari. I mean, it looks like it's hustling. You can see the way he was just clipping the curb. Not too much to unsettle the car, but just enough to really let you see that he knows where to put the car and make maximum use of the race point. This one, he's 1.7 seconds away from, but he's half away from the seventh place Argentina. So a lot of time he needs to find. But it looks reasonably, neat, tidy, making the apex of not over driving, which is always fatal because he's decided to go into the pit stop, into the pits.
He also had to get past a very slow car coming down towards turn 14, but avoids without drama. Now, are these cars going to go back out? I suspect not. They've done what they could do.
If I was running a team and I was looking at the times, bearing in mind that we're seeing China coming into the pits, currently 4th row of the grid in 8th place, I would say. So Mexico, a lot of work to do for Mexico. Currently only 17th out of 18. Ricardo Perez de Lara.
And also somebody that's having a pretty torrid time, passing Lafouras behind him on the road, ahead of him on the times, but the Thai Ferrari, forgive me, 16th, not going well at all here.
No, it's surprising that passing Lafouras and Petit Bear and Bakti managed to do a better job in the practice session that we had slightly earlier in the afternoon, but not translating here in the second part of qualifying.
On board with the Mexico Ferrari, hard on the brakes down at turn 8, sharp right. No mirror, so you've got that rear camera showing you what's going on behind.
Just looking at it, thinking what a great improvement it is, because at least you will see a car coming behind you. Modern GT cars, particularly with all the roll cages and gubbins that are inside the car, very difficult for rear vision.
First gear down at turn 10, that shows you just how tight a corner that is.
Just have to go out and walk it, and you realise how tight it is. Unfortunately, when you're seeing camera shots, you get a slightly different, particularly you've got a very wide angle lens camera, which is what we'll be having in a cockpit camera within the car, so you get a distorted view of what the owner actually looks like. Oh, and his struggles there in turn 12 at the exit, backs out of it big time, and he's backed out of it altogether. It's all done by all the shouting, I think. 55 seconds to go.
I agree with that.
And Mexico's cruising back. Whether they take the option to go for one more lap, I somehow imagine unlikely, and just bring it back into the pit lane, keep those tyres as in fresh a condition as you can.
So the perfect qualifying outcome for Belgium, because the fastest driver in each session gets a trophy from Pirelli, and this ensures that it's going to go one each. Charles Weerts and Mike Dentan, they are the fastest drivers, and there is Charles Weerts, who's kept his crash helmet on to the very end, but he, I think, now can start to celebrate. And in the background, you get an idea now of how quickly it goes dark here. The session started in the daylight, but now it is very dark indeed.
Well, when the sun drops, it drops extremely quickly. It's not totally dark, but it's not 5 minutes away from being. So there's magnificent sky. Look at that. Sailor's delight, they say. Red sky at night, sailor's delight.
And Ezequiel Perez Companc has to go and see the race director. So there's more trouble at Mill for the Argentina.
Well, that car got reported in the first qualifying.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's still, whether Ezequiel Perez Compact also was guilty of not using his mirrors.
So Charles Weerts does the best time of the day, 2 minutes 0.136. Belgium takes 2 pole positions. Perfect start to the weekend. Of course, it's all very well celebrating that, and there's a press conference that's got to be crowbarred in shortly, but they're already thinking about the first race, which is at the end of the day. There is the Sakhir Tower. This circuit, of course, close to the Sakhir region. And Belgium, Denmark and Turkey, the top 3, ahead of France, Italy, the UK, Argentina, China, Germany, Sweden to round out the top 10, from Russia, Belarus, Australia, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Thailand, then Mexico and Japan. That's the order at the end of Q2 for the FIA GT Nations Cup. And Charles Weerts has done a great job, so did Mike Dentant in Q1. The celebrations have begun in Belgium. Bruce Jones is with the drivers.
Dentant took pole for the first race, and Charles Weerts, Formula 4 racer, but now making GT3 look very easy.
Yeah, it's still 4 wheels, 1 steering wheel and 1 engine, so it's always a bit the same. But for sure, I'm really, really happy to make such a great start for the weekend. Of course, this team and just gave me an incredible car. I just had to do it. So.
Well, you had the bar was set very high because Mike took pole in the first qualifying session, but between you, there's a big height difference, but you both fit the car, both make it go very fast. So, Mike, from your point of view?
Probably I have long legs because we are using the same seat. Too.
Very good stuff. But congratulations to the two of you, and you did make it look very easy.
Thanks a lot.
I think part of the reason they made it look very easy is because they're kids.
Yeah.
You know, if you look down the pit lane, the average age of drivers is probably a little bit older than those 2 young Belgian drivers is, and you know, it's just where motorsport is these days. It's a youth sport, and they've emphasised that clearly.
Let's have a look at the highlights of qualifying, with the cars lined up in the pit lane, all good to go. And in the daylight, of course, Q1, even though the sun was setting, the rather braver fans concentrating on their endeavours before the cars took to the circuit. And Q1 had the battle initially between the Audis of Malaysia and Belgium. And Italy, with Pier Giuseppe Perezzini, also making good progress and dragging the car up the order. Jose Manuel Balbiani was going strongly for Argentina, so too Alexander West for Sweden. It was Chris Buncombe, though, that was also quick early doors for the UK in his Ferrari, but he ran wide coming out of the last corner and compromised his lap time, which gave the Mike Dentant Belgium Audi the chance to go top. Also looking good, Renat Salikov for Russia, but not good enough. He was marred down the order as the Belarus Ferrari charged on as well. But the quicker times would come in Q2 when you put the silver graded driver aboard the cars. And for Turkey, Ayhan Gurvan was getting on with the job to go third. Mike Dentant had already been quickest in Q1, but Charles Weerts, his co-driver, fastest in Q2. It means 2 pole positions for Belgium, and race 1 coming up later on in the day here in Bahrain, with the race due to get underway at 7:30, and it's 5 o'clock local time just now. Q2 was perhaps the more competitive, as the cars had to take to the circuit under the floodlights, but there was no change at the top. Belgium fastest in Q2. Once again, the Audi proving itself to be a very competitive car, as the Lamborghini of Ezekiel 14. Qualifying completed. It's time to think about racing in the FIA GT Nations Cup. Join us later. For now, from Bahrain, bye-bye.